Good morning. My name is George Boras. I'm the president of Avenge. I'm going to talk a few minutes about Avenge and our special mission crew trainer. So who is Avenge? We've been in business for, it'll be 17 years this summer. We have three main areas that we specialize in. The first is flight operations. We provide pilots to the U.S. government, both military and other agencies. We primarily provide pilots and flight operations managers. And we do flight operations management. Defense Contract Management Agency 8210.1 is our specialty. So government contracted flight operations. We've been doing it for, again, 17 years. We've actually been in theater since late 2004, flying ISR operations. And we've flown approximately 350,000 hours in theater, which is pretty substantial. And we continue to fly in theater in different locations. We've moved all over the place in theater, and we've got a great crew of pilots. Our pilots, over 90% of our pilots are former military pilots, and they average about 8,000 hours. So we've got a good experienced crew of pilots. Primarily turboprop, as you can see, we've flown all these different platforms. We continue to fly many of these platforms in theater. The next area that we specialize in is training. We do both pilot training and ASO training or MSO training. We've been training pilots since 2000 in the ISR arena. So this is earlier than most people have been used to manned ISR. We started on the Airborne Reconnaissance Low program, and we've continued on the ARMS program, Mars, EMARS, U-28s, PC-12s, MAL, as far as pilots, and MSOs. So with the EMARS program, for instance, which was a TRADOC approved program, soup to nuts, we designed all of the training package for ASOs, maintainers, pilots, and staff, and conducted all that training for EMARS, and continue to train in those areas. We'll do initial training, recurrent training, new equipment training, and as you'll see, this special mission crew training. There's more to follow on that. The last area of specialty is engineering and maintenance flight test, and we do this for both government and industry. So we will take these ISR airplanes, and as they're modified, and as you know, many of these airplanes are in constant modification. As you upgrade the systems on the airplane, they come in from theater, get modified, go back to theater. We will do initial maintenance flights on these airplanes when they come back from theater, assess their maintenance situation. After they've been modified, we'll go back out and do all the engineering flight testing for these airplanes, which includes EOIR testing and SIGINT testing. I've been doing this again since 2000 on numerous programs. Almost all of the Army's ISR programs, with the exception of Guardrail, we've done the maintenance and engineering flight testing on those programs since 2000. We also specialize in FAA flight testing. So many of these airplanes, these ISR platforms that are flying out there, have FAA certification, and we specialize in that as well. We work closely with AED at Redstone Arsenal to help get airplanes airworthiness certification through the Army. And we also do technical documentation, including -10s, pilot operating manuals, etc. In addition to what we do at Avenge, we have a sister company, Potomac Flight Training. We established this company in 2009 because what we couldn't get from the big flight training outfits out there was, if you're going to be flying King Airs, you go to the major guys out there who teach King Air flying, they're teaching you to be a corporate pilot, but we don't do corporate flying. We do ISR flying. So we needed to take our pilots, our new pilots, and train them to be ISR pilots. And the only way to do that was to do it ourselves. So we purchased some flight simulators, King Air, and we established a flight school, got it FAA approved. So it's an FAA Part 141 pilot school. We have numerous flight simulators. They are King Air flight simulators. We've got King Air 300s, 350s, and we also have EC-135 helicopter simulator. Potomac Flight Training specializes in King Air training. However, we can do everything soup to nuts, private all the way through ATP. Some unique things about the flight training that you get at Potomac we'll talk about a little bit later on in the briefing. So what we really want to talk about is SMCT. So what is SMCT? Well, SMCT, Special Mission Crew Trainer, is a pretty simple concept. We took a flight simulator, and in this case, it's a very inexpensive, full motion, full visual flight simulator made by Redbird Flight Simulations. This configuration is a King Air 350 with a ProLine 21 avionics suite. We took that flight simulator and we linked it to a mission simulator. We linked them virtually. They don't have to be co-located. But what we've done is we've linked the flight simulator and the mission simulator so they're flying over the same airspace, the same altitude, same airspeed, etc. So we've actually made a crew trainer. The front end, we've got pilots flying. The back end, we have mission sensor operators. Now this system is not, it's simulator agnostic. We've taken a Redbird simulator and linked it to a Westcam MX series simulator. We've linked it to a ForceX Torch simulator. We've linked it to a Night Vision Labs MTI simulator. And currently, we have it linked to our own Avenge virtual sensor simulator, which is simulating the MX series, the Westcam MX series cameras. And hopefully in the next 2 months, we'll have it configured for FLIR Star Sapphire as well. So pretty simple concept. And what do we end up with? We end up with a ground-based pilot and mission sensor operator trainer. Right now, if you want to do mission training with an ISR crew, pilots and back-end operators, you can only do it in an airplane, which, as we all know, is very expensive, and with most ISR platforms deployed, it's virtually impossible to get that crew training because you just don't have the assets available. So we've taken it and done it virtually. We've got our aircraft simulator, we've got our mission simulator, and we can work together as a crew. And the beauty of this, again, is that you actually don't have to be co-located. So we have flight simulators in Sterling, Virginia, but you could have a flight simulator at Fort Huachuca, you could have a mission sensor simulator in Savannah, Georgia, and those crews, the pilots and the mission sensor operators, can be working together on the same mission. They can brief, they can get in their respective simulators, and they can fly a mission, and then they can post-brief all virtually. When they're in the air, they're in the same airplane. So it's a great system. We actually do it at our Sterling where they're both combined, but again, they do not have to be co-located. So in addition to the actual simulators that we have, we provide complete ISR mission sensor system operator training. So we can take a pedestrian future sensor operator, and in a couple weeks we can actually train them to where they're at an RL2 level, where they're ready to go to theater and start missions. And this is a real problem with the number of sensor operators out there. There's a huge demand for sensor operators. And where do you get them? Well, a lot of the companies out there they're just taking guys out of the military with some sort of background or no background at all, and they're doing OJT training in theater. It takes time. You get someone who gets to theater who isn't mission qualified, and the mission suffers. So we can take a guy, a pedestrian, and we can put him through our complete training scenario, and they will do we don't do classroom, sit there, PowerPoint briefings. Their entire 2 weeks of training is going to be sitting in front of a simulator with an instructor, and they'll learn all these things. They'll learn about the cameras, they'll learn about how to do EOIR operations, they'll learn communications and phraseology. One of the toughest things for back-end guys is to learn how to talk on a radio. So they'll learn that. They'll learn how to produce products for ground-based operations. They'll learn pattern of life, how to handle assault forces, ground and helicopter assault forces. We'll teach them convoy, overwatch, etc. And then we'll teach them how to operate as a crew member with pilots before they get into theater. ISR mission pilot training. So there's a huge pilot shortage out there right now. So where do you get your pilots? You got to pick them up from all over the place. The military doesn't produce a lot of ISR pilots. What they do, they produce pilots that are flying all kinds of different airplanes, but they're not necessarily doing ISR. We can take a pilot and teach him to be an ISR pilot. He doesn't have to learn it in theater. We do it back here in the United States. We teach him crew coordination, TTPs. This flight simulator, if you look, has a, oh shoot. Well, it has a monitor on here, which is a mission sensor monitor, or a mission monitor. We have, in the King Air 300s, for example, we have Xenarc monitors, and that's what that is. The instructor sits in the back and projects what mission he's actually flying. So that is what he's got in the airplane. He's doing an ISR mission while he's training in the King Air 300. So if he's not a King Air 300 pilot, and we're qualifying him to be a King Air 300 or 350 pilot, he's getting qualified doing missions. He's not flying the Boss from Poughkeepsie to Chicago. He's flying an ISR mission in Iraq or Afghanistan from the very beginning of his training. So we conduct all this type of training, as you see here is listed. His entire training course is going to be as if he's flying in theater. And one very unique thing about our training, our pilot training, is our FAA approved training allows us to use military checklists. So if your pilot goes to one of the big companies for flight training to be a King Air pilot, he's going to use an OEM checklist. When he gets to theater to fly a military airplane, that checklist goes out the window and he has to use a military checklist. And the checklists are extremely different. We have FAA approved, we are allowed by the FAA to use military checklists in our pilot training. So they're not having to learn something, then throw it away 2 weeks later and learn something else. So my time is up. We are located right here, so come by and talk to us.